What has Excelsior's domain been picking up from eBay? Let's have a look.
So, you might remember that last video in this particular series I was looking at an old Robotech, not knockoff, but clone in effect, I suppose. And it was going under the moniker of Star Force. So I was searching for things with Star Force in the title to see how common they might have been. When I ran into these guys, and there were quite a few people selling these guys. So I thought it was kind of, I was intrigued because I could immediately see what was going on here, of course. So this is proclaiming itself to be a die-cast Star Force Tampo printing pull back. Now, I don't know if Tampo printing is actually, presumably it's referring to the way it's been decorated. And it is actually quite colourful. For something that is, clearly a knockoff, but weirdly not, because they've actually tried quite hard, in a sense, to differentiate themselves from Star Wars, because they've added another little cockpit onto the side of the Falcon and given it more sort of go faster boosters at the back as well, which is quite hilarious. And obviously, they've completely removed its normal coloration from the mix as well, so that anyone seeing it at first glance wouldn't necessarily call it out as being a Millennium Falcon ripoff, which of course it is. But these just sort of drew my attention because I kind of wanted to know how big they were and how die-cast they were, and were they actually any good, because they're supposed to be like sort of pull back and go ones. So what I've done is I've bought 8, which is, I believe, is the sort of the full suite of 6 and 2 spares. So I can uncard the 2 spares and actually have a look at them just to see exactly what they do actually feel like in the hand. They're only 3 inches long, they're quite little things. If I sort of give you this reflection figure alongside there, you can see they're not sort of vastly, actually about the same scale really, actually, strangely. Kind of curious. But yeah, so that's the sort of size you're looking at basically. It's not huge at all. I can only imagine that these populated newsagents, at the time. Now, people were quoting them as being sort of 1990s. But as you can see, there is absolutely naff all detail on the back of them to tell you much of anything. It just says Fancy It Agencies Limited, UB55QH. Please retain details for reference. It's a choking hazard. But I don't see anything to date it unless there's going to be a date on the card. So obviously they went for Millennium Falcon, and people do refer to them as Star Wars knockoffs, which I don't vastly disagree with. But there is a little sort of tweak. So they did this one as well. You can see they're going for the sort of the US angle with this one. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is an A-wing. And actually, I don't think we don't often see toys of A-wings for some strange reason. I don't know quite what the reasoning is behind that. But I thought that was quite cool. It's got some missiles on the sides of it. And again, it seems like someone's actually kind of genuinely trying with the design of these things, not just to make them sufficiently different that nobody's going to sue them, but just sort of genuinely has a certain affection for what they're actually trying to do with it. So I had a little bit of time for that. So this was kind of what drew me to it. And we've got a particularly colourful one here, which I think is a Calamari Cruiser knockoff. But again, it's just the sheer how colourful they are, because obviously Star Wars ships tend to be fairly uniform and fairly bland, really. Whereas these guys have just sort of jazzed it up a bit. So I thought that was just sort of quite entertaining, really. Someone's had the chutzpah to try and do it in the first place, but B, it obviously gone for quite a decent sort of reuse of the ships. So yeah, I had some time for that, and they also, of course, went for the, even more boldly than most perhaps, they went for the rather classic X-Wing. So here we have an X-Wing rip-off, great big sort of missiles on the bottom of it. But again, it is unmistakably, when you sort of look at it like this, it's unmistakably an X-Wing. And one of these I can actually get out because there's one nearly coming out of the blister anyway. So I'll definitely take that out. But I just thought that's quite cool because it's quite subtle. You know, they've done a few little sort of tweaks to it. But I just thought it was just sort of quite entertaining the way that they'd done it. But to call them Star Wars knockoffs is not accurate because the last two in the series are not Star Wars. And this is what really sort of made me smile to myself, because I thought you're going to have to be quite into your science fiction to recognise what they've done here, because these are not well-known ships outside of science fiction circles. Now this is immediately recognisable to me because I have a fairly decent sized Eagle Moss version of it. This is a copy of the Narcissus. The Narcissus was a shuttle attached to the Nostromo from the fairly famous film Alien. And it was actually this colour in the film as well. So actually this is a relatively accurate version of the Narcissus. And I just thought somebody's got quite a deep knowledge of science fiction films to have thought to take the Narcissus of all things and turn it into a Tampo printing pullback with possibly some die cast involved. So I thought, kudos to you, sir, whoever you were, that was a clever move. And there is a bit of detailing on the surface as well. You know, they've not just gone completely El Cheapo. There's definitely been some effort put in there. They could have just done it completely plain plastic, you know, but the actual sort of detailing and everything else suggests to me that there is a certain fondness lurking behind the design of what otherwise look like very sort of cheap knockoff items, you know? So that appealed to me as a concept. And I've now shown you 5. This is the 6th. And lo and behold, if it isn't on the Nostromo itself. And again, not a lot of people would recognise this ship. And even I had to just go back and sort of double check with a Space Stock episode just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. But it is indeed the Nostromo from Alien. And again, I just love the fact that they thought, I know, we'll release a really sort of cheap knockoffy sort of spaceship that no one will possibly recognise, only we'll take it from one of the most famous science fiction films ever. Which, you know, to actually be able to recognise that silhouette, you have to be quite deep into your sci-fi lore, I think it's fair to say. But I did call it very rapidly, and obviously having seen the Narcissus, my brain was already along the right sort of track, so I thought, I bet I know what that is. And it is indeed the Nostromo. So, gotta hand it to them. It's really, really just sort of, it made me smile, but the sheer chutzpah of it, and the rather clever choices. I mean, you know, the Star Wars ones, obviously kids would probably recognise immediately, but grown-ups would probably be the ones recognising the Alien references, because obviously that's a completely different genre. Years back, you know, it was still not, I wouldn't call it a video nasty, but you know, it was a proper 18 film back in the day, so kids in theory should not have been watching it. So let me now burst the bubble. let's actually have a look at one of these outside of a card and just see exactly what you are or are not getting for your money, or lack thereof, shall we say. So here we are. This is one of the X-Wings. So let's just have a quick look at this. It's virtually coming off its card as it is anyway, so no great shakes. But even the card darts, it had a little bit of thought put into it. It's got a sort of an inner bubble, so it's quite well protected. And there you go. It's got a little bit of weight to it. There's a little bit of weight to it. Let's see if it will indeed pull back. I mean, there's no year on this. So I have no idea how old this is. Yeah, it's running. It's running. That's okay. That's all right. It's going. Does exactly what it says on the tin. It is a pullback. How much die cast is really in here is kind of debatable. It does feel quite solid though. Even the sort of missile doesn't feel like it's going to just sort of instantly snap off. And you know, it's just the sheer level of detail on there I find quite impressive for a cheap little thing. You know, it feels decently solid. It actually does feel decently solid. You know, there's not much flex in those wings. The wings themselves are pretty solid actually. I mean, yeah, picking that up on a sort of, you know, as a sort of holiday shop kind of present, I think that's pretty cool. I've no idea why it's got these sort of little plasticky bits at the bottom. They're sort of just, maybe they're just there for effect. But it's also got this little sort of friction engine built into the bottom of it. Let's just have a closer look. I'm just trying to see if I can see any sort of manufacturing details whatsoever, but I think that whoever put these together wished to remain anonymous, which is understandable because well, I mean, they did have details on the card on the front, of course. But I mean, yeah, it's just a little bit of fun, isn't it? It's near. It's it still just makes me smile. It's near enough accurate that you know what it's going for. You know, it's that sort of idea. So this is the big old calamari cruiser, of course. Let's see if this one's in a similar vein. This is bubble gum. But again, it's just this fascinating. It's just really colourful. For no apparent reason other than it chose to be, which I don't know. It is just making me smile. This is far more complex on the bottom. It's got this whole sort of extra layer. Maybe it's to balance it out or something. I don't know. But let's see if this one will run. That feels quite positive. Wow, gosh, like a bullet. that's actually a lot faster. Ironically, for a cruiser, that's a lot faster than the X-Wing. Wow. Yeah, that still had some serious power left in the bottom of it. That is impressive. I'm easily amused. Clearly, even at my gentle age, I'm easily amused. But those have tickled me. Those have tickled me. It has to be said. I've no idea if anyone's ever done a video about these before. I haven't even checked, to be honest. But you know, it's just one of those things where I looked for it. And there were any number of people selling, you know, sort of job lots and vast sets of these things, but there are only 6 of them, so you can acquire the whole set pretty rapidly. But I just thought, as knockoffs go, I just thought, yeah, I like the fact that somebody's gone not just with Star Wars, they've gone with a little bit of, you know, they've put a little bit of extra thought into it, and they've actually ventured outside of Star Wars and gone for something far more obscure. And I just don't know. I don't know what sort of overall age they are. You know, sort of the total spread of them must be suggests to me that obviously, you know, they'd have to be probably at least early 80s, but then the ads that I've seen for them suggest more like early 90s. I don't know if that could be accurate. I mean, I guess somebody could have been producing them that late. And you know, then the power of the pullbacks is quite decent. So again, maybe they could have been that late. But if anyone knows definitively one way or the other, then obviously let me know in the comments. But that appears to be the full stretch of the series there. Those half dozen. So if nothing else, I have recorded these for posterity. If you happen to remember them yourself, I don't know why you would particularly, but you might. It might be the sort of thing you picked up on a family holiday one day, perhaps. You know, stranger things have happened. But yeah, there you go, Star Force. I'll keep an eye open for anything else that's vaguely similar, because these have amused me. They have amused me. This little grouping, yes, bless them. So I dare say I'll be back more mainstream next time, but these have tickled me. So I'll leave it there for now. Cheers.